I followed a Stoic wealth code that almost nobody talks about anymore. Not a financial strategy, not a trading technique, not a clever investment formula, a code of behavior, and something strange happened. My money obeyed. Not magically, not instantly, but predictably. Because the Stoics understood something modern financial culture ignores. Wealth is a consequence of character, and character is trained. Let me ask you something before we go further. When you think about money, what emotion appears first? Excitement, anxiety, envy, urgency, or calm control? Your answer reveals more about your financial future than your income. Because the Stoics did not pursue wealth emotionally. They pursued arete, excellence in judgment, excellence in restraint, excellence in discipline, and wealth followed those who practiced it. The code began with a rule that sounds harsh in a world built on convenience. Never spend to change your mood. Think about that. Modern spending is emotional medicine. Bad day? Buy something. Feeling bored? Order something. Feeling insecure? Upgrade something. The Stoics would see this as surrender, because if your mood controls your spending will control your future. So I stopped. No purchases tied to emotion, only purchases tied to function. The first few days were revealing, not because I saved enormous sums immediately, but because I noticed how often spending was psychological. Tell me honestly, how often do you spend because you are restless, or because you are stressed, or because you feel you deserve a reward? These are not financial decisions, they are emotional reactions, and reactions erode foundations. The Stoics believed discipline is freedom, because discipline eliminates chaos. So the second rule of the Stoic wealth code was simple: always delay. Not forever, but long enough for emotion to fade. 24 hours, 48 hours, and sometimes longer, because urgency is the merchant of bad decisions. The Greeks called this sophrosyne, temperance, a balance of appetite. When you delay spending, something powerful happens. Desire weakens, perspective returns. Often the purchase becomes unnecessary. Tell me, how many things have you bought in the last year that no longer matter to you? And how much of your future wealth quietly dissolved into those objects? The Stoics did not fear spending, but they feared unconscious spending. Unconscious behavior is erosion. Erosion rarely announces itself. It simply weakens the structure until collapse becomes inevitable. The third rule surprised me most. Track everything, not casually, not approximately, precisely. The Stoics practiced daily reflection. Each evening they reviewed their actions. What did I do well? Where did I fail? What must improve tomorrow? I applied the same discipline to money. Every dollar, every expense, every transaction, and patterns appeared quickly. Patterns that had been invisible before. Small leaks, recurring indulgences, subscriptions forgotten. Tell me something difficult. If your financial life were displayed publicly in complete detail, would you feel pride or embarrassment? Because clarity is uncomfortable, but clarity builds control. Control builds arete, and arete compounds. The fourth rule of the Stoic wealth code was brutal in its simplicity. I practice voluntary poverty, not permanently, periodically. Seneca himself, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, practiced this. He would live for several days with minimal food, simple clothing, and bare conditions. And he would ask himself, is this what I feared? Why would a wealthy man do this? Because fear of poverty is one of the greatest psychological chains. If you believe you cannot survive with less, you will make desperate decisions. Desperate decisions destroy wealth. But if you prove to yourself that simplicity is survivable, fear disappears. Let me ask you something honestly. If your income dropped dramatically tomorrow, could you adapt? Or would your entire lifestyle collapse? Your answer reveals how much fear governs your financial decisions. The Stoics trained fear out of the system. And without fear, decisions become rational. The fifth rule was subtle: protect attention. Attention is the most valuable currency in the modern world, because attention shapes behavior. The Stoics protected their minds carefully. They avoided unnecessary noise. They avoided gossip. They avoided emotional contagion. because chaos in the mind leads to chaos in decisions. And chaotic decisions destroy financial structure. Look around. The modern environment is designed to fracture attention. Advertisements, notifications, endless stimulation, all competing for your mind. Tell me, how many financial decisions have you made while distracted? How many purchases occurred while scrolling? Distraction is the silent partner of bad spending. The Stoic wealth code removes distraction and replaces it with presence. Presence reveals reality. Reality corrects behavior. The sixth rule was one I resisted. Seek discomfort, not recklessly, not theatrically, but deliberately. Cold showers, hard exercise, simple meals. Why? Because comfort dulls the mind. A mind that expects comfort cannot tolerate uncertainty. And uncertainty is everywhere in financial life. Markets fluctuate. Opportunities appear unexpectedly. Risk must be evaluated calmly. If discomfort destabilizes you, financial decisions will follow emotion. The Stoics harden themselves through voluntary resistance. Tell me, when was the last time you deliberately chose something difficult when something easy was available? Because ease trains weakness. Resistance trains stability. The seventh rule might be the most misunderstood. Detach identity from wealth. The Stoics did not worship money. They saw it as a tool, useful, but not sacred. If your identity depends on wealth, fear will govern your behavior. Fear of loss, fear of embarrassment, fear of decline. Fear leads to poor judgment. But if wealth is simply a resource, decisions remain calm. Tell me, if your net worth dropped by half tomorrow, who would you be? Would your identity collapse or remain stable? Because true wealth requires internal stability. Without it, external wealth becomes dangerous. The eighth rule was quiet but powerful. Build slowly. The Stoics despised frantic ambition. They valued steady progress. Because rapid expansion often hides weak foundations. Think of Roman roads. They were not built quickly. They were built precisely, stone by stone, layer by layer. And many still exist today. Or your financial life requires the same patience. Tell me something honestly. Are you chasing sudden wealth or constructing long-term strength? Because chasing speed invites collapse. Structure invites endurance. The ninth rule returned to discipline. Guard your circle. The Stoics understood that environment shapes character. If your environment celebrates indulgence, discipline becomes difficult. If your environment values restraint, excellence becomes natural. And look at the conversations around you. Do people discuss building or consuming? Do they admire discipline or mock it? Your circle quietly influences your financial trajectory. Tell me, if you adopted extreme financial discipline tomorrow, would your friends support you or ridicule you? The answer matters, because resistance is easier when shared. The final rule of the Stoic wealth code was the most important. Daily reflection, every night, without exception. What did I do today? Where did I act from impulse? Where did I demonstrate discipline? Where did I protect my future? This habit changed everything, because awareness destroys unconscious behavior. Unconscious behavior builds erosion. Erosion destroys wealth. Over weeks, something shifted. Spending became intentional. Saving became automatic. Opportunities became visible. Not because the world changed, because my perception changed. Money began to obey structure, and structure replaced chaos. The Stoics never promised riches, they promised something more valuable. Control. Control over appetite. Control over emotion. Control over decision. And when control exists, wealth becomes easier to manage. Let me ask you one final question. If you applied these principles for a single year, emotional restraint, delayed spending, voluntary simplicity, disciplined reflection, where would your financial life stand 12 months from now? Would your foundations strengthen, or would your habits resist the change? Because the Stoics would remind you of something simple and uncomfortable. Your life is not shaped by intentions. It is shaped by repeated actions. And repeated actions become character. Marcus Aurelius wrote these words to himself while ruling an empire surrounded by war and plague. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The mountain of discipline still stands, and the climb is yours.